Hey, how you doing today? My name is Harry McGraw, and welcome to another episode of the McGraw Report. Thank you for coming out today. Happy Friday. I hope everybody's getting off work, and we're getting ready to have a really interesting conversation here today. We might rub some elbows, the wrong elbows, but just let's think with an open mind. Let's check out a different perception. Today, we have a couple topics today. Topic we're having, topic number 1, PTSD. Topic number 2, mental health. Topic number 3, psychological effects of religion. Now, once again, this is your host, Harry McGraw, and we're going to talk about PTSD. Now, with PTSD, most people look at PTSD as something that soldiers come back from seeing their brother injured or just traumatic situations that people go through. And PTSD is a little bit more deeper than what people think. But before we dive deep into what PTSD is and several versions of PTSD, let's check out what is PTSD. Okay, the potential causes of PTSD. We have domestic violence, we have war, we have abuse, sexual, physical, emotional. We have witnessing mass disasters, witnessing and experiencing a serious car accident or anything like that. We have bullying, we have medical procedures, we have robbery, burglary, death of a loved one, adoption, and separation. Now, with PTSD, once again, we have... Okay, so like I said, we have potential causes of PTSD. We're going to say it one more time. We have domestic violence, we have war, we have sexual abuse, we have robbery, burglary, other medical procedures. So, on PTSD, we're talking about post-traumatic stress syndrome. Now with PTSD, we have more of veterans and actual soldiers that went through traumatic effects. PTSD leads to a lot of veteran suicides as well. 22 veterans commit suicide from post-traumatic stress syndrome. Now, a reason that I believe that a lot of veterans commit suicide nowadays because it's more of the newer generation than the older generation that's committing suicide. Now, another thing that they're trying to bring up that's causing veteran suicide relates with pharmaceutical drugs, antidepressants. And some people say that social media has a play as well. But veteran suicide is a real thing, but we have another topic that we're going to talk about as well. But before we get into PTSD and the other alternatives to it, let's talk about the symptoms. Okay, symptoms of PTSD. We have anxiety, emotions. We have disturbing dreams, flashbacks. We have numbing. We have emotional numbness, avoiding discussion events. If you know anyone that have any of these type of traits, they might have PTSD. And you can have PTSD without having any experience in the military. Now, back to PTSD. Now, my opinion, PTSD can range from stress at home, just like they say, people who have traumatic death in their family. But let's think a little bit deeper. Let's think about another way PTSD. Another instead of post-traumatic stress syndrome, let's think about the urban community. When I say urban community, let's think about the black community. What about post-traumatic slavery disorder? You ever thought about that? PTSD, post-traumatic slavery disorder. Now, the reason why I say that is this is an example of post-traumatic stress slavery disorder. Now, imagine that if you have, let's say we're talking 1800s or early 1900s. Let's just say a slave. And you have a slave owner. Now, at a point of time, there are blacks that are actually free. They are not slaves. They own houses. They have their own land. And some of these blacks actually have confrontations and talk to some of the slave owners. So imagine if you are a slave You're on a plantation. You do everything your master says. You cook for him, you clean for him, you do labor, you do everything you can to be noticed, to be put in his great graces. So imagine a free black, comes up to your house, doesn't speak to you, speaks to the slave master, eats with the slave master. Now, the back of that slave mind, he must think, you know what? That guy must have did something wrong. He must doing something with the master. He must be kissing butt. He must be doing something to get in his good graces, because I do everything for him and I'm still here. And he's just up and about, show his face. Now, my opinion, let's turn that into nowadays. A job environment. Some people say, and you have a manager or a supervisor, and you have other employees. Imagine your boss giving you a little bit more special attention, or maybe you're just a really good worker. You have a good mind. There's some of your employees might think, you know what? I just can't believe he has a boss. I just can't believe he's eating this. I just can't believe he's doing that. It can be a sense of poverty, post-traumatic slavery disorder. So before we get into anything deeper in that, I'm going to show you this quick video, because we're going to talk about mental health as well. So I'm going to show you this quick video. If anybody's interested in calling, please call. But this video is pretty interesting. All right. It's called the doll test.
Is the black doll? And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white and he has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me?
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
That doll.
Now, that video was very emotional for some. Please call in if you want to chime in about that video. But that just showed you how the deep programming in our subconscious minds of our youth, and us not accurately educating our youth. Now, there could be several factors. Mothers maybe not there, families dysfunctional, or maybe just information in general. But just to perceive, not loving yourself, just to perceive you born wrong. That's innocence right there. That's innocence. And that's a disorder. That's a form of PTSD, if you ask me. You know, someone who sees 2 dolls, 2 different colors, and just assume that this dog did wrong. Why does this dog do wrong? And just on a deeper terminology, think about just darkness. The word dark, you're scared of the dark. When food is black, it's rotten. You know. So we're just taking it a little bit deep today. We're just thinking on mental health. We're thinking on PTSD. Anybody want to call in, please call in. All questions allowed. We still have more information to talk about today. But back to that doll again. Very, very uncomfortable information. You should definitely try to do this test. Because think about it. You're born in a world where, and I think, my opinion, a lot of that problem, that video, comes from the media. You know, the media labeling individuals who may have dreads or just may look a certain type of way. Just the perception of black and the perception of dark needs to change, period. So that's what I want to say about that. So we're also going to talk about post-traumatic poverty disorder. Now, you probably never heard of it before. You probably heard of PTSD. So we just broke the news with post-traumatic slavery disorder. We're going to talk about post-traumatic poverty disorder. All right, we have a caller.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment on the white and black area.
Can you speak up just a little bit? I cannot hear you. Just speak up just a little bit more, please.
Yes, so when I saw the doll test, it made me think about police and how they judge black and white people walking down the street. What's your opinion about that? How can you relate that to the test?
Well, thank you for your call. I really appreciate it. What I think you're saying is, how can I relate that to when police? So that definitely, just think about that. If a black child born by a black woman, my intent, what I think is around black family, and still thinks like that about a black figure. So if a child can perceive a black doll as that's the bad doll, just imagine a Caucasian man or a European man who normally doesn't have friends with other ethnicities, far as like dark people, black people. You know, because my opinion, a lot of established whites usually come across black people in the work environment, or it's something they have to do like at a restaurant, like a service. But I definitely agree. Just imagine someone walking that line, and so if that black child thinks like that, imagine what that white child thinks. Imagine how that white child grows up, and all his leaders are white. You know, all their superheroes are white. Their God is white. White is pure, in a sense. Different terminology. So I definitely hear you on how that can affect police. I'm pretty sure there's some police officers that see people that might look like myself and just have instant bad intention. And it might not can be, their subconscious, it definitely their subconscious mind. It might not be how they grow up. It also can be the line of duty as well. Imagine if you're a police officer and every time you come across an individual that might look just like me, they're always giving you problems, or they're always or having something or doing something wrong. You can, sense when somebody, or have experience on knowing like this guy, there's a percentage that he might be, doing something he should not be doing, or he might be somebody that I'm looking for. So thank you for the call. If you have more calls, please bring them on the line. So what we're going to talk about is post-traumatic poverty disorder. Now, I'm going to give you an analogy. Now, I'm not rich. As you can see, I'm not rich. I was born in Chicago. I was born in Chicago, South Side. We didn't have the best. Life is good now. But post-traumatic poverty disorder is, think about this. A lot of people that come from the same walks of life as me, our mothers work. My grandmother was a slave. So my grandmother used to pick cotton before she decided cleaning offices. And my grandmother, what she was instilling into my mother was, you need to work. You need to work, you need to work. My mother worked her tail to the bone and was telling me, hey, you need to go to school, you need to go to school. So I went to college, I graduated, got a degree in construction management. Now I'm instilling to my child, hey, you need to create, you need to create. But back to what the poverty disorder is, that there's generations of poverty. So when you're living in this type of time where people are getting rich off of anything, people and like it's like poor now is different from poor 30 years ago. You know, there's so many different type of resources. There's so many different avenues of income that people are doing it. And when I say people suffering from post-traumatic poverty disorder, is a life of not having anything. And then when you finally get something, you boast. It's like, you know, if you see the same things I seen, you know, there's a lot of African Americans that are very prideful. We stunt a lot. And when I say stunt, we're real flashy. You know, we like nice cars. We like wearing the flyest gear. And some people might say, you know what, that's not responsible. That's not responsible. Chill. But think about this. If you're a man or a woman that didn't have a mother or lost their mother, never had anything, you know, you finally get a taste of something, and then your mothers, they never had anything. Their mother never had anything, and they're still content on what they have. And you finally get a taste of something. You finally get a taste of the things that they never had, you know, and you kind of hold on to that, and you boast a lot. And some people say, yeah, and think about it. They say black people are the highest consumers in the nation. The highest consumers in the nation, but we're always the ones rallying. We're always the ones fighting for justice. We're always the one that's looking to be equal, looking for jobs, but we're the number one consumers. So that's letting you know right there, we're getting money, but we're just suffering from post-traumatic poverty disorder. That's what we're suffering from, in my opinion. Now, to be honest with you, I'm going to say my opinion again. I think as a African American, and not just as a black man in general, because there's been plenty societies of thriving black men and black men making money. I think that this has been the most richest time for a young African American. A young African American, period. This is my opinion. People are getting rich left and right. I never, like, you see so many young people that are just hustling, getting their money, you know, but we're still fighting. We still feel like we still have this narrative of we're not equal. And my opinion is, if we're not in a better place now, then what's really going on? It's really a psychological thing. So back to another one of our topics, the psychological effect of religion. Now, when I start questioning the world is because I was a raised Christian, but when I grew up and realized that there's other people that are not Christian, that's make you start thinking. Because you start thinking like, okay, I'm a Christian, he's a Catholic, he's a Buddhist. You start realizing like, hey, they don't do stuff that I don't do. He don't do stuff that I don't do. It's just different values. And then you start thinking about like, well, how do I know I'm doing the right thing? How do I know they're doing the right thing? You know, so the psychological effects of religion. And then on top of that, you realize, just like the dog test, the person that your grandmother or your pastor and everybody's praying to and going to is this figure. So on another note on how the psychological effects of religion, we can talk about how the Charleston murder. You know, we had these people in the church praising God, and they opened their doors to a Caucasian man in the faith, and unfortunately, a lot of them lost their lives. Now, some people might say, well, it was Lord's will, and you know that's just what it is. Period. You know, it was Lord's will. It was meant to happen. And some people might look at that and like, where's your God? Why will we be in a place praising God and praising what we're praising, and He can't protect us from this? You know, it's just two different types of perspective just to look at it. But just when you look at your young man on that internet, and that young man that's outside, that's happy, that's walking around with his chains and walk around blasting his music, feeling good, don't think irresponsible. Don't think that he has a problem. Just think about everything he didn't have. Think about everything he never seen. It's post-traumatic poverty disorder. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. It's a real thing to the point where we have individuals that have government assistance, but still find a way to buy the things that people say that they cannot afford. And think about it like this. You will go and see your father and your mother work for years and don't even own a house. Work for years trying to get their pension and die before they even reach their benefits. So imagine if you're a young man, you're working. Your mother said, hey, save your money, do this, do that. And she can't even reap the fruit that she grown. All the years she put in, then you realize, like, you know what? Nothing's promised. You know what? I'm going to get a taste of this. So that's post-traumatic poverty disorder. So before we get up out of here, we're going to have a quick summary on what we was talking about today. So number one, PTSD. With the PTSD, we talked about PTSD could be caused from domestic violence, war, sexual abuse. But majority of people look at PTSD far as stuff that soldiers go through. But with PTSD, think about this. We're going to talk about post-traumatic slavery disorder. And when I say slavery disorder, think about that coworker that can't believe that you got that raise because he doesn't believe in himself. He feel like, I didn't get that raise, so why should you get that raise? Think about that. Or think about PTPD, post-traumatic poverty disorder. Think about that young man that got that $1,000 check and just spent $800 on that car or $800 on that chain. Okay, mental health. When you say mental health, think about that baby. Think about that child. When they ask white dog, black dog, they ask, which one's the bad dog? The black kid points at the black dog. Which one's the good dog? The black kid points at the white dog. Think about that. The last one, psychological effects of religion. On top of that child pointed that out, think about that child going to church and he looks around and he sees a white Jesus and he sees a white police officer and he sees a white president. Think about the psychological effects that can cause on that child to make that child hate itself. So please stay tuned next week. We'll have a great episode on the McGraw Report. I have a great guest coming up. It's a secret. It's a surprise. So if you're interested, please stay in tune, 6 o'clock p.m. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and thank the caller for calling in today. If you want to contact me, go to www.themcgrawfoundation.com/contact. You go in there, you can send me an email or send me a direct message. I appreciate everybody. Have a good night, y'all.